Thank you, Nathan. Uh, Greetings, good evening, guys. My name is Sunish. I'm a product designer at FlytBase, and today I'll be the session lead. So, let's just first talk about how we were designing previously. And over the last few months, what we were doing, like we were trying to go full stack, as in even a designer would be able to develop and get that power in his or her hands, right? Like that is what we were thinking of in this program. And if you had previously seen in the first session that we conducted, my colleague Prathamesh had already talked about how we are building the design, then we are going through the code and everything. So in our initial process, as you could see here, was we start ideating in Claude, we brainstorm with Claude, we get the wireframes. Till the end of wireframes, we make it in Claude, and then we convert that to lovable prompts, and then we make the dashboard and lovable. So this was our process back then. And the prototype that lovable fetches us, we get the code from it, and we make some changes, obviously with our developers, and then we give it to the production. Now this was a flow. Now this flow was actually very good when it was dealing with generic UI. As
Simish,
yes.
sorry, you can close this window, Google Meet window. We can see that overlay. Just close this. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry, guys. So this is like a generic dashboard that you see, and it was very easy to make that in Lovable because Lovable has a large data of all the existing common components and stuff. So it is easier for it to build those things. But that is where we started hitting a bottleneck, where whenever we started trying to build some very complex this one, right, like UI, UX, or there are so many states that we need to handle, Lovable started giving us trouble. The code that it generated was not that way. And talking from the design side, let me just first show you what is complex that I'm talking about. I'll show that in Figma. So as you could see, this is a dashboard that we are trying to build. And building this in Lovable was such a trouble for us because there were so many states, so many logic, so many UX, so many UI changes. Everything was very custom. So Lovable was not able to comprehend that easily, and we had to again go back and forth about how we can, like make that work. And designers had that trouble, and even though we did some end up giving something to the developers expressed their frustration on how the code quality was not that good whenever it came to these complex dashboards. So as you would see, like this is the main issue, like the designers having to go back and forth again on Lovable to try to make something work, and the reliability of the code that becomes a bigger issue for the developers. So we obviously needed something better, right? So in this case, what can we do? So that is what we thought, and we were trying to bring in more things. And in an emergency scenario, we had to build a lot of screens again back in Figma to express to the developers like exactly what we need. So it felt like we were backtracking again, and we didn't want to do that. We want to be completely AI native, right? So that is when we started experimenting further and further. And since we already had some of the Figma design that we made previously in that emergency scenario, we tried to convert that into very good code. At least we could do that, right? Like that is what we were thinking. And that is when we experimented on these tools such as builder.io and like Anima, which is like a plugin that you could directly get the Figma designs, convert that to code. But that was like even worse than Lovable, to be honest, because the code that it generated was bad, subpar, and also the design was not completely being reflected. So it again gave us some problems. So that is when we kind of encountered like how the Figma MCP thing, and we wanted to dwell more into it. Now, let me just show you the output that we actually got from this Figma MCP for a second, so that you can understand how it is being done. So as you can see, this is the component that we have built, and this has a lot of states, routes, and like the card layout, the selection inside the card, where the multi-select option, where you also can delete some actions. You open another panel, you have to add that in here, and like there is another mode, and all of these things like where being have to be done, right? Like even like you even look at the changes. Like there are so many micro interactions that we need to build, and it is obviously going to get very complex and lovable, right? So we figured that out, and we wanted to make this work somehow, like even and that is when. So I will just go through how we actually did it. So as you could see, in a traditional way, in Figma, we would have to build so many states for the card, for the all the separate interactions, all the functions that it deals with, how the panel collapses, expands. These are all the things that we need to deliver to the developers, right, on a regular basis as a designers. But then how can we do all these things? Like then it's like we are again backtracking, right? Like we also want to cut short the time that the designer takes to do the things. So how can we also do it with minimal design effort, but also get the maximum output in code? So we want the best of both worlds, right? So how can we do that? So that is when we tried this, where you can just see all this thing, right? Like it's just two single frames that we had to create to exactly show and make it follow the design system, the language, which is very curated from the designers ourselves. So once we do that, we then just copy the link of this frame, entire frame, and then we go to Claude. Now, as you already know, we are still following that Claude kind of workflow where we start ideating from it, we brainstorm from it, we do all these things, we get to a wireframe, and that is when we are designing it in Figma. And now we need to communicate this somehow to Claude, right? Like it needs to have the context before building such a component. So this is the main part. So now I give the Figma link, right? I give the Figma link to Claude. I explain exactly what I need in this component. One by one, this is like a very detailed prompt, but bear with me, this is like a single shot thing. So then whatever you need, the interactions that you need, the empty state that you need to have, like when it should open, when it should collapse, all this thing you mention it here. And this is a type of prompt that I always follow through, as in like a guideline to it, so that it always sticks to the design, the Tailwind's CS style that our developers have given me. And these are some of the guides that you need to build the code in. So this is where the project knowledge comes into play. Where if you think about it, this is this is a developer workflow that our developers are evenly given us. It has all the context, how to code, like what logic the model should think on, and all the types of uh, like standard coding principles that we have. Everything is like very briefly described here, and it is strictly told so that it needs to follow certain style, like Tailwind styles and all that. And even from our design side, we had to give it a prompt, as in what kind of a rule that you need to follow and how do you use these styles, right? Like it also needs to know that. So we give our core design philosophy, our how the buttons can possibly look, and how each of this should be done. So these are like few documents that we had given, even how the component should be structured, right? In the code that is from the developers, we give all this as a feed. And now with all this context that Claude has, the component context that it can build, the knowledge base that how you need to do this, everything is already there for Claude. And now all you need to do is like use the MCPs, right? MCPs, which I will talk about the installation part at the end of the session. Basically, what you do, you use this Figma Developer MCP, and also another MCP which is called File System. I hope Kanchi will link that up in the description so that you guys can take a look at those MCPs. Now, pairing these two MCPs, all you need to do is just exactly say which folder do you want that in, and Claude will first process what it wants to do. I'm using the model 3.7 Sonnet. Like that is the best thing for coding as well. So it first fetches the Figma data, as you could see here, and then it goes through the directory tree, it reads all the files of the existing folder that you had given, and it directly starts implementing on all your rules and guidelines. So as you could see, it has started writing the code here. And once the code is done, you basically have the code in this manner. So this entire thing, it has built it in this format. And it is also, these are like the documentation that it generated. And in the components, you could see this left side panel has built all this stuff. Like this was all like a single shot stuff. And there were only like a few things we had to tweak here and there. 1 second. Yes, so that is how we actually came up to that thing. Now, how are we putting that into other projects? Let me show you that. You previously saw some designs, right? So if you could check that out, this is something that I'll be submitting to the developers as like a base. And if you see here, like there is a demo of this component that I built with Claude, and like how it should function, like how this line should happen, and when it reaches a critical stage, how it should deplete, and everything was just like a single prompt that I had given it with some detailed explanation on when what should happen and when it should happen. And such components, these are like such complex components that Lovable will be never able to, like easily make it. And Claude, on the other hand, easily had the Figma access, had every data, even had the logic to do this, and was able to replicate that instantly here. Even you could
पिछले 18 सालों में हमने जानवी क्लाउड को 14 डिजाइन भेजे हैं और उन 14 डिजाइन में से एक भी डिजाइन सिलेक्ट नहीं हुआ पिछले 18 साल में।
sorry, can you
सिंगल टाइम
designs?
आपने मेरे कोवर्कर्स के सामने मेरे बॉस के सामने मुझे हिपोक्रेट कहा मुझे
No. Oh, do you want to see the older design that I initially showed?
No, there was some issue there. No, I think by mistake that person put himself on unmute. So you can continue, Sidnesh.
Yes, sorry about that. So as you can see, this is how I'm implementing that on my complex this one. So as you can see, all these component demos, settings panel, like how everything should function, everything is being done in this manner. So everything is not just responsive, the code is also very good, as my developer has told me about it. So that is the thing. So this is how we are, sorry. So this is how we are leveraging our Figma MCP and doing this stuff. And now let me just let us see how this solves the other problems, right? Like now I don't need to build a lot of these states. As you previously saw in Figma, if a normal way I would have gone, I would have had to explain all the flows in like all single multiple frames, and this would have cost me a hell of a lot of a time, right? Like I had to explain all these interactions by text, this, and the developer will have to then develop it. But what am I doing now? All I'm doing is just creating these four screens, and I have all the complete context of it right now. So I know exactly what I need, and I just explain it to Claude, like, okay, so we already ideated on these things right now. Can you like implement these things? And with the help of the Figma design that you have, please strictly follow the design system and the Tailwind style that you follow, and make a code out of it. Now that's how we are building the component. Now imagine how much time I'm saving as a designer, and how much time I'm also saving for the developer, right? Like this is like front-end code, which is like completely ready, and it is as good as it is like how a front-end developer would do. I mean, there is obviously some tweaks here and there, but the developers are obliged to do that. So yes, so I will go through the, yes, as you guys see, let me just go through. So I'll just show these are the prompts that you guys would have seen. I will try to make a template out of it and then give it to you guys in the uh, hackers collective or something like that. So in this case, the prompt that we gave for the following the design system and what the developers gave me. These can all be very specific to your company's use case. As in, we are using React, you might be using something else. So
like Angular.
Yeah, so these resources are linked. So this is where you guys can go and check out the MCPs and how to basically install them. So this is the Figma Context MCP that we are using right now. And you would get the installation guidelines here, like how you could do it, and it is very detailed. You can even try out a YouTube tutorial and it will be there. I'll try to link that up as well. And the other MCP that we are using is the file system MCP, which lets Claude directly writes into your local directory, basically the folder that you are creating. It will have access to that so that it can make edits and read that file. So this is that file system MCP. And these are the two MCP we are using with Claude Desktop. So that is the stack that we are following. So yeah, to Kanchi.
Thanks so much, Shivnesh. That was no, really exciting, really wonderful. I think a lot of people are trying out these experiments, and like everybody faces different sort of challenges, and it is always interesting to keep trying out different things. So Shivnesh mentioned earlier, we have also tried different approaches, and for different kind of components, different approaches work better. Like for some of the simpler things, directly using a no-code tool like Lovable or Bolt, that works really well. But as things become complex, then what Shivnesh just shared is now working really well. So a lot of people have asked about if we will share this. So already Shivnesh has mentioned. So we are compiling, we are cleaning up a lot of these things, and we will share most of these templates with you. So these will be shared on. So we have a Slack for AHC. Kanchi has already shared the link, so you can join that community, and on that Slack, then we can start discussing and sharing these things. And also, Shivnesh and other team members are available. If you need help, we can have those discussions on that Slack channel. So now we are open for questions. So if anybody has questions for Shivnesh, you may just type it in the message, or you can raise your hand, and then we can do that.
Since you're presenting, just open the benefits slide.
So Ghansham, please speak.
Good evening, sir. Sir, my question is, I am an Angular developer. I have 2.5 years of experience, and I am using Figma for in our company.
Yes.
They are using Figma for design. Okay. And that time design is coming for developer. That time, as it is, that design we can implement by using AI. Can we convert this?
Yes, you can most definitely do it. You'll just have to follow the specific guidelines, right? Like for the development rules and guidelines, you need to feed that to Claude as like a knowledge base so that it understands and exactly tries to replicate it. So in this case, what stack you would need will be built, like even the design guidelines, you need to very well curate it so that the Claude gets complete context of how it needs to build the code. So in that manner, even though you have the design, right? Basically it is like the MCP is like a converter. It puts it into a format and feeds it to Claude. So Claude will then decipher whatever it has. Now the context that you feed it will further more ensure that all the interactions will also be possible. So even if it is not possible, right? Even in my case, everything was not like complete one shot. There were some things where it failed on a certain interaction or something, and it is still again another chat for you, right? Like you can just mention like, okay, so can you create the documentation for me? Can you like the expanded panel that you added, this might not have these features or something might be missing here. So you could just curate it in that manner and it will still deliver you the result. So yes, did that answer your question? Not
Okay, sir. So, can you suggest any AI tool that is best for this?
I would suggest Claude completely, to be honest, because I have seen the best outcome with Claude 3.7 model, especially. I'm using the thinking model in this case. Even if you're using some other platforms, right, I would say you could try the same thing with the Windsurf or Cursor. Like their agents are also good. You just have to use the model, which is 3.7 Sonnet. And I think the code will be as good as it is here.
Okay, I think let's move to the next question in the interest of time. We have question from Jaidev, please.
Yeah, thanks, Nitin. Thanks, Shivnesh. Really appreciate your session. So just curious, we've been using Claude Code a bit. How does Claude Code compare with Claude plus the file MCP? Any experience that you all have with that as well?
Yeah, so combining that was tedious task. So initially, as a designer, I'm just trying to bring it to the front end part, and the best way for me to do this is in Cloud Code Desktop, like because I'm just ideating that flow, everything is in a single manner, and me generating the documentation, right? Even that has been very helpful for me when I'm doing it in a normal Cloud AI. Like yes, our developers are using Cloud Code, and they are then taking from whatever I'm giving here, they're then taking it to that level, and that is more so like fine tuning whatever I'm giving. The thing is, the output is exactly kind of similar. The only problem with Claude Desktop is that you hit like a rate limit, right? Like the length of the chat gets exhausted after some time, which is the differentiator from Cloud Code. In that sense, Cloud Code could be a beneficial way. But since I'm also already feeding the context, I will build some newer components in another chat because anyways it has all the context, right? Like so
Got it.
clean working for me.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Yes.
We have the next question from Shrikant. Shrikant, you may please speak up.
Hello.
Hello.
Yeah, Shivnesh, sorry
Yes.
that I'm disturbing you.
No.
So, I have one small question. Can we take the screenshot of the Figma design,
Yes.
and if I uploaded inside the AI tool and asking for the design and everything from the front end,
Yes.
does it give the details about the front end related code like the folder structure and everything?
Okay, so the folder structure is something different, right? Like it can be anyways fed to Claude, like how you want that component to be structured. But the main problem is the screenshot that you're sharing. The screenshot that you're sharing does not know the exact pixel width or like the padding or
True, true, true.
exact UI format that you need to follow, right? Like so the design system wise, it will start varying. But that is a very important thing in our process, I feel, because the developers also understand that we need to always strictly follow the design system and language so that you have to keep it consistent. And the padding and all of this stuff will only come up when you actually feed the data in this manner than the screenshot, because it can assume that the screenshot might be in a bigger size or a smaller size, or it doesn't actually get the exact values.
It does not have all the necessary context or data.
Necessary context to develop that exactly. But the structure that you were saying, talking about, that can be anyways fed. You could teach
Mhm.
that to Claude with some other prompt.
And one more thing that I have, can you please just show me that how did you connected that AI tool to generated code to the direct Visual Studio Code?
Binsurf.
Yeah.
So basically, as you already as I told you, like the local directory, right, that we are
Okay.
writing the code in. So
Okay.
where how Claude is writing is, it is basically just accessing this mission planner to folder, and it is writing the code there.
Oh, okay.
And in Windsurf, I'm just going there and opening that folder. And here is where I will tell it to like, I will just either tell it to do something, or I will just say, uh, oh, sorry.
So you mean we don't need any GitHub help over there, right?
Uh,
Like to merge and everything related.
And no, in this case, you don't need it, but it will be helpful when you are, as a designer, it will be helpful that after you create a component, you either give it to the developer in an internal way, or you push it in like a GitHub thing for the merge to happen. Like in that way, they would also like be on the loop. Like they can verify these components further, and then take this step to push it into production or not. Like how good the code is.
Got it. Got it. Thanks so much, Unish. Thank
Yeah.
you.
We have a few more questions. So let's take the question from Manish Sadhu. Manish, you may please speak up.
Yeah, I just want to know like how you're like following best guidelines for the Figma so that like it could be understood by the like cloud in a better way, so that like we get like more accurate code
Okay, so
generated.
how I'm designing it in Figma so that Claude gets the context, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So if you look into this, I'm using the exact styles that the Tailwind has. Basically, the styles originated from here. So if you take a look at this, we will be using our all our styles, as whether it be the colors, whether it be the padding. If you could see in all the smaller elements, all the bigger elements, we will be strictly trying to use our uh, So in this manner, it will be like size 300, right? Like and then the tailwind CSS, that will be very easily be able to relate a bit. So whenever Claude tries to access this, we'll just have to give a prompt like you need to follow these things, right? Like so it'll already understand that okay, I will follow the tailwind styles now, I'll follow the design system now, and it'll see the exact design that you have given in Figma, and it'll try to replicate the corresponding thing. So if it sees size 300 there, it'll do the same thing in the code, like how the padding should be, what color styles it needs to use. That will be like just absolutely followed. Like as you could see here, like there is literally no imperfection in that way. Obviously, there is a minute UI change here and there if you could very detailedly see, like, but those things obviously can be picked by the developers because that they can do, right? I feel that.
Got it. So
thank you.
like, I have a following question. Like, so how many iterations you have to go through? Like, once you got the code from this MCP server, like, would you spend like at least like 1-2 iterations, or like, is it a single short code that you get, which is a production grade or something?
Okay, single shot. As I had told, like this is the first prompt was this, and then I started generating some component documentation in that manner. So that is what I've been doing here. But as I kept interacting with that, I realized there was some other things that needed to be done. And now I'm just giving it more context again. Like, okay, so can you do this in this manner? And like, see, you don't need to, like very specific things. I will say like this is something that you have missed out, and now can you do that now? Like the search does not seem to function, so I want it to function. I don't just want it to be this one, right? Like so in that case, if I say that it is just another prompt and Claude will do it for you. So this is the entire flow that it took me to do the component that you are seeing right now. How completely.
Basically, yeah, the problem with single shot is that you yourself might not be able to put in all the context in one shot. You will realize what you have missed only once you see the output, and then you can give that additional context and get it done.
Yeah, because even in that case, I didn't specifically mention that I needed a search bar function. I just thought it would assume that it would know, but apparently it did not. So some things like that, obviously, we can correct, but it is all in the chat.
Let's take up a few more questions. So Ashish Gawade. Ashish, are you there?
Yeah. Hi, Nitin. How are you?
Doing good. Yeah, please.
Aniruddha has a question.
Yeah, I have a question. Hi, Nitin. So my question is, let's say I have a application in mind. I design some wireframes on Figma.
Okay.
And then for the logic of how the application will work, let's say I draw a typical flow chart, like a software flow chart, right?
Yeah.
If I combine these two and give these two inputs as, say, pictures, to Claude, will it develop the whole application with the logic and the program or the code?
So developing an entire program in a desktop, I wouldn't suggest that because that might be a bit too complex even for Claude itself. As in, if you're doing it in Claude code, that might be a better case. But if you're using Claude desktop, it has like token limitations, right? Like some 8,000 something tokens it has. So as it keeps trying to do it, it might stop somewhere and it will hinder your process. So that might be one of the bottlenecks of this case. And if you are doing such a thing now, what you can do is do the ideation and everything in Claude. You feed all these things to Claude. You ask it systematically, the prompting, like how can I prompt this and make this one by one. So even in this case, you can create some prompts which you can again then feed to Claude and in different chats, and then you can give to the final out. That is also completely possible.
I see. So you're saying break it into parts versus giving it as a
chunks is like always the better option, because at that chunk it will just try to focus on that specific thing to build, and it will build it better by better, and you can also stitch it together at the end. You just need to know the full picture. So you can again use Claude for that, generate this one, and you can open another chat and then start. You just need to understand when you need to stop and when you need to reiterate.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks. We'll take just one more question because we're already out of time. What we can do is, I'm sure clearly a lot of people have questions. So please feel free to talk over Slack. Sivnesh is on AHC Slack community. So you can just post your questions there and he should be able to help you out. Let's take one more. Ajit Harani. Are you there, Ajit?
Hi, Nitin. Thank you so much to you and Sivnesh.
Yes.
One very basic question. I've been playing around with Claude Desktop, but it does not generate a set of files. It just gives me code. I have to copy it and paste it into file. Is there anything
Okay.
better that we can do?
So that is when this MCP comes in. So as you could see, we created this. So this file system MCP, right? So what this file system MCP does is when you give it access to the specific folder that you want to write the files at, it doesn't just generate the code, it directly writes the code there. All you need to say is don't generate an artifact for me, just directly write this in my local repo, like local directory, which is the file you mentioned. And I can just show you guys the, what is it? So if you could see this. So these are the two MCPs that I'm using here. So file system MCP is running, and that is one of this, and it has access to two of my folders, which is mission planner 2 and operations view -com. So these are the things that it has access to. So it directly writes it there. So that way you don't need to like copy and paste it. That will be like so much work for you. So you can even, when you start a file, you can just mention an empty folder and you can say like build this in this manner. I want this many modules to be downloaded. I want this many packages to be installed. And if you say all that, Claude will do that for you.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nitin. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Thanks so much for joining. So the key is like, please don't think of like whatever Sivnesh is sharing as something cast in stone, because we are continuously learning, we are continuously updating or figuring out new ways of getting things done, and that is what is required right now. Like all of us have to experiment, all of us have to explore. We should not think that we know anything. We don't know anything, and we are like all starting from scratch. We are all just exploring. The more we explore, the more we learn. So with that spirit, let's continue learning, exploring, and sharing. And again, feel free to join the AHC community where we can all share our learnings with each other. So with that, we'll see you next week with another session on some exciting hacks that we are figuring out at FlytBase. And again, encourage even others, if you have something that you would like to share, just reach out to us on Slack channel, and we can organize a session where you can share your hacks and share that with the community. So thanks everyone. Have a good rest of the day.
Hi. Hello.
Yeah, Pradhan.
Like how can we get the recording?
So Kanchi just shared. So it's YouTube link. Just check the chat. In the chat, there is a YouTube link where we have recording for the previous sessions as well, and we will make this one also available. But if you want to have more discussions or anything, then just join the AHC community.
Yeah, sure.
Okay, great. Thanks everyone for joining. See you next week.
Yeah.
Thanks, Sivnesh.
Yes.
Okay, bye.